Hey guys, Sneaky Snake here, Brothers in Arms, World of Warships, and today's video we're going to take a look at our next installment in our Tactics and Strategy series, and this one is going to be a basic cruiser guide. Some of the tips, some of the tricks of the trade, all that good jazz to improve your cruiser gameplay. Now of course, this video is primarily directed towards the player base that is either less skilled or new to the game, and that's why I felt that it'd be important to showcase a video where I'm playing in a lower tier cruiser. Tier 5 is the mid tier, technically, but, I just figured it'd be nice to show you guys some gameplay in a ship that some of you might have, because the Murmansk is a pretty popular lower tier premium cruiser, and, it's also very similar to the Omaha, which is the Tier 5 American light cruiser, which I'm sure plenty of you that are new to the game might have. So I figured that it'd be nice to show you guys some of this kind of gameplay. And that's also something that we've been discussing too, getting some lower tier gameplay on the channel. But anyway, the whole point of this video is to help you guys get the basic fundamental facts of how to do good in cruisers. And cruisers, in my opinion, are the hardest ship class to play in the game. We're not going to include aircraft carriers in the discussion because that's its own special thing. We're just talking about the main surface combatant groups, destroyers, cruisers, and battleships. So the first thing that you need to understand is the fundamental job and role of the cruiser compared to its other contemporaries. Destroyers, two things: torpedoes and stealth. They're able to get on caps because they are the ships with the lowest levels of detection, and they have high burst damage with their torpedoes. Generally speaking, DD torps are pretty good ranged. They deal a lot of damage, and they're used to deal very large amounts of burst damage. That's their main thing. Battleships as well. Long reloads on big caliber weapons on platforms that have a lot of armor. So they're able to tank a lot of damage, and they're able to deal a metric ton in return as well. Cruisers don't necessarily have the bursty type damage. Yes, a lot of the cruiser classes do have access to torpedoes, but a good cruiser player understands that they are going to be able to have the most impact on a game when they stay alive. Staying alive until the mid to late game in a cruiser, conserving your hit points, and dealing damage from afar without taking too much in return is, in my opinion, the most fundamental thing that you need to understand about playing in cruisers. You can see right here, yes, the Mahan comes around the corner and does detect me for a slight bit, but then as I shoot at him, he gets obliterated by torpedoes from my buddy Senpai, and I am undetected. So right now, I am utilizing my consumables, the spotting aircraft in this case, and I'm doing some stealth firing at the enemy Duke of York. Now, cruisers also have access to the most wide variety of consumables as well, and a good cruiser player is also going to be able to use their consumables throughout the course of the game. It disheartens me so much to see cruisers become the opposite ends of a devastating strike 2, 3, maybe 4 minutes into a game, because they literally did nothing. And it's so frustrating to see that. You need to play on the side of caution, ever more so, with the cruiser compared to the destroyer and the battleship. And it's really important to preserve your hit points, as I do some nice torpedo beating right there. Now you can see right here, I am shooting at the Duke of York. There's plenty of smoke that's in front of me, so I am able to stealth fire, quote unquote. And you can see, just raining the DPM on this guy. Now, of course, I do have IFHE on this captain. The Murmansk does come equipped with 152mm guns, so you do need IFHE to be able to deal reliable damage. But you can see I easily have enough penetration to get through these Tier 7 battleships that I am shooting at. And you can already see I've done over 11,000 points of damage to that guy as he has had to turn away. But I am still shooting, and it's just now that I finally do get detected. I was stealth firing quite a bit there, using hard cover, using the concealment provided by the smoke screens to be able to shoot at enemies without really having to worry about return fire. Now, another thing, a lot of the cruisers, especially the ones here at the mid tiers, the low and mid tiers, have excellent maneuverability. They have pretty decent speed, at least all of the post-World War I design cruisers, which you'll generally find starting at Tier 5. And they also have pretty decent rudder shift and turning circle. Now, of course, it's nothing like a destroyer, but you saw right there, I was moving at about half speed, and then once I got detected, I saw the KGV that he was aiming at me, and he was turning to shoot at me. So what I did was immediately go full forward and utilize the turning of the cruiser to maneuver out of the way of the shells. Good cruiser players will dodge stuff. You, generally speaking, even at the high tiers, don't want to put yourself in a position where the enemy ship, the enemy battleship in this case, is going to be guaranteed to land some shells. You want to stay enough at a standoffish kind of range to where you're going to be able to dodge shells by maneuvering. And I could go a little bit more into detail about maneuvering, specifically micro-maneuvering, where you're making very small movements of the rudder, or you're maneuvering at low speeds, and you're still able to dodge shells, but this is just a basic guide here. So always having your fingers over the A and D keys to turn the rudder, and always messing around with the W and S keys to increase your speed or to decrease speed is so important. You see that I still have all of my hit points, and I have been shot at a few times, and once again, I'm also putting myself in a spot where I'm able to deal free damage. I am stealth firing at these guys. Now you might be thinking to yourself, well, Sneaky, aren't you just damage farming? Well, yes, that's exactly what's going on. But also, I'm a tier 5 light cruiser in a tier 7 game. I don't have enough armor at all to even think about bouncing most or any of the shells that are shot at me. The Leon, 13.5-inch guns. The Colorado, 16-inch guns. The Duke of York, 14-inch guns. All of those battleships are able to easily pulverize me if they get some good RNG and a nice salvo falls my way. So, you know, there's no reason for me to get too close to them and put myself in a position where they're going to be able to possibly hit me with shells. So that's why I've been very cautious, and I've been maneuvering around these islands right here, shooting at targets of opportunity, but still maneuvering around, still playing with my rudder, still playing with my speed, and utilizing all the cover and concealment that I can. If you've lost track of the damage counter, I'm almost up to about 50,000 points of damage, which, to be honest with you, for a tier 5 cruiser, is not a bad damage count, in all honesty. It's really not. And I do have some stuff burning as well, which is really nice. Now, because I'm such a low tier, and unfortunately this is something that you will come across a lot when you start to get into the higher tiers of the game, specifically tier 5 and up. Tier 5 and tier 6 matchmaking does suffer. You do have to be very cautious in your cruisers. You really do. Now, another question that might pop up is, well, Sneaky, not all cruisers have pretty good range. In the Murmansk case, 14.8 kilometers of range at Tier 5 is a very healthy number. Think of something like Japanese heavy cruisers like the Furutaka and the Alba, or ships like the Cleveland at Tier 6, well, at least the Cleveland now until it gets moved up. You know, not all the cruisers in the game are gifted with such nice range, and inherently, French cruisers, Soviet cruisers, German cruisers, they're a little less, or they're a little more forgiving because they have such long range that you can stay at those standoffish ranges. But the whole point remains the same. Dealing damage from cover, from concealment, without putting yourself in an opportunity to get blapped in return. Now you can see here, we're winning the game pretty comfortably. It's 554 to 209. The enemy team has already lost 6 ships, so this game is already in the bag. So at this point, I'm just going to try to put myself in a position where I'm still able to deal more damage, maybe get a couple kills here, and see what we can do. Now this Leander that's moved up, this is the wrong play to make. I don't know why he wanted to charge around the corner by himself, and he gets blapped by my buddy D-Mags in the October Revolution. The play that he made right there is just completely befuddling to me. I have no idea why. And also right here, another perfect example. I do get over-penetrated a couple of times, maybe one shell was a pen, but right there, I was moving at half speed, and I still played with the rudder, and I still turned hard to port, and most of the shells that came my way missed. The first salvo, a couple hit me. The second salvo was a complete miss, and I was still playing around with the rudder, still playing around with my speed. Priority target for captain skill is the most important skill that you can get immediately on a brand new captain, because it tells you how many dudes are aiming at you, so you can get a good idea of who actually is aiming at you. So when I saw the 2 that popped up there, I thought to myself, okay, looking at the minimap, it's definitely the Colorado and it's definitely the Duke of York shooting at me. So based off of that, I was able to put myself into a position where I was already angled away from their shells, and all I had to do was turn a little bit and dodge them. So the basic tenets that I've covered so far: putting yourself in a position where you're able to deal damage and not or greatly reduce the chance of you taking any in return, playing with the rudder, using your rudder shift, utilizing changing your speed, because you're still nimble enough to be able to do something like that. Those are 2 basic tenets that I've hit on. Now, for another thing to talk about when you are lower tier like this, also being very cautious. I may have already mentioned that, but being cautious with your positioning, being cautious where you're taking your ship is also very important as well. So at this point, I realize you can see that the enemy team is moving back towards their cap to try and defend it. The only ship that's over here in the immediate area is the Podvoisky, but actually since I'm shooting, it tells me that he's not anywhere in like I2, I3, or directly off my bow. So once again, I'm dealing damage from afar on this Duke of York. I made him use his damage control, and now I got another fire set on this guy. This is a Tier 7 battleship that has been slowly but steadily taking lots of good damage from me in a Tier 5 cruiser. Again, it's the risk-reward matrix. Putting yourself in a position, and it sounds like I'm beating a dead horse here, but if you go back and you look at all of the cruiser gameplays that we've uploaded to the channel, and if you watch mine in particular, I'd say the best thing to think of when you want to, if you maybe, you're having a bad day or things aren't going really well, think of passive-aggressive. I am definitely a passive-aggressive player. 70% of the time, I'm playing passive, dealing damage from afar, putting myself in the best position to be able to shoot the target that is providing the most opportunity to deal damage, but then recognizing those times when it's okay to be a little bit more aggressive, like right now. The enemy team is moving back towards their base. They're a last-ditch effort to try and keep themselves safe, and I'm moving into a position where I'm now shooting more rounds downrange at the Duke of York. Now, if you were wondering why I took damage right there, my buddy D-Mags was just screwing around, and he shot HE into me, so yeah. That doesn't have anything to do with the video, but anyway. I'm moving into a position where I'm still dealing good, solid damage to this Duke of York, but I'm also getting ready to put this island in between me and him. So once again, I am stealth firing, and I'm dealing some pretty nice damage to this guy. And the Leon manages to take care of business. But, yeah. If you've lost track of the damage counter, again, it's up to 83,000 points of damage. And I really haven't put myself in any bad positions. The only time that I took any reasonable damage was about 5,000 damage from the couple of shells, I believe from the Leon that hit me, but that's it. Other than that, I haven't taken any other damage from the enemy team, and I've dealt a lot of really good damage to higher tier ships. And I know that Haven is a map that's small-ish, and it has a lot of island cover to utilize, but, that's okay. Now, at this point, like I said, I'm being more aggressive. I'm going to push into the enemy team's base, and I'm going to try to get some good shots into the ships that are providing me the most or the best opportunity to deal damage. That's why I'm shooting downrange at the Colorado now. He's at 13.6 kilometers, and he is turning to port. Other things about cruisers that I could talk about. One other thing I can mention is accuracy. You need to be accurate with the guns that your ship has. You need to really understand ballistics, shell drag, things like that, and making good quality salvos, because you can have all the DPM in the world that you want, but if you're not able to land the shells on target, it's kind of mutt. Another thing, target prioritization. You're going to see right here. Right as I killed the Colorado for my first kill of the game, I decided to drop my 8-kilometer torpedoes into that smoke screen, and I'm shooting at the Scharnhorst. But any second now, that destroyer, the Podvoisky, is going to pop up. And I immediately change my focus to that DD. You can see he's still in the enemy team's cap. I can see that the Scharnhorst is not paying any attention to me, so I'm shooting at him. But all of a sudden, the Podvoisky appears, and I immediately turn all my guns to port to shoot at that guy. And right as he goes undetected, I get a whole bunch of shells going down range. The shells fly in, and I do manage to pick up my second kill of the game. I'm up to 96,000 points of damage, and then once more, I switch my focus back to the enemy Scharnhorst. He is burning in multiple places, and I'm shooting up into the superstructure. And I'm also about to crack 100,000 points of damage, and hopefully, I will be able to secure this final kill of the game and end it in style, and that's exactly what I do. Alrighty guys, taking a look now at the post-battle results. 299,000 credits received and 4.6k total experience earned. I dealt 101,000 points of damage off of 184 shell hits. I sank 3 boats, 2 of them 2-tier higher battleships, and I had 9 fires set. Taking a look at the team score, 1,529 base experience in a Tier 5 cruiser in a Tier 7 game. That's a victory. That is a very solid showing, if I do say so myself. Taking a look at the detailed report, 69,000 damage dealt with the main battery, 31,000 damage dealt with the fires that I set, 47,000 of that damage that I dealt was to the Duke of York, and the vast majority of that damage was dealt to him through the fires that I set and the HE shells that impacted while I was stealth firing. I also dealt quite a bit of damage to the Colorado, 23,000 points of damage, and although I only did 703 to the Podvoisky, that was still a very important kill that I got. So, target prioritization, something else very, very important. The damage that I took, 17,000, but obviously that's not really accurate because my buddy decided to shoot at me a couple times. I only took about 6,000 damage-ish from the enemy team, and I dealt over 101,000. So the amount of damage that I dealt compared to the amount of damage that I received from the enemy team was like a factor of 16.8 for every 1 point that I took. Now, I don't have a baseline to compare that to, but like I harped on so much, the fundamental part of cruisers, dealing damage at the caps, at the ships that need to be damaged without taking very much in return. And that is so important. I think that's the fundamental thing about cruisers that you need to be able to take advantage of. So it all comes down to positioning yourself in the most optimal spots where you're not just damage farming, but you're still there helping the team out. Obviously, this was a standard battle replay, so there's no caps that I can get near to try and help out friendly destroyers or other ships that are there. But still, I put myself in a spot where I was able to deal a lot of really good damage. It kept the enemy team from pushing around the corner, notwithstanding their Mahan playing like an idiot and losing the spotting game. But I put myself in a spot where I was able to deal really good damage to the ships that needed to be damaged at the time. And yeah, that again, I know I've harped on it a little bit. This video might have sounded a little bit just kind of thrown together at the last minute, but those are the things that I think that are so important to cruiser gameplay, and it'll help you guys out. So just be a little bit more cautious. Shoot at enemy ships that are, providing you the best opportunity to deal damage, but also utilize cover and concealment, smoke, what have you, as much as possible. And I promise you that if you stay alive later into the game, you're going to have a lot better results, of course, because you'll deal more damage and have more experience, but you'll also be able to win more games as well, because I cannot tell you how important it is to have some cruisers on your team mid to late game that are able to offer that DPM when ships are damaged and they're not able to respond as effectively. So I hope this video was helpful for you guys. This is the Sneaky Snake, of course, for Brothers in Arms World of Warships signing off. Please consider giving the video a like, commenting on it, or possibly subscribing to the channel. Thank you very much, guys, for watching our great content. And with that being said, have a great day.